Let's talk about this PIR motion sensor module and how to use it. This is a passive infrared sensor that senses infrared light which is emitted by our body or animals or warm objects. This module came straight from China and it cost only about $0.8 or 42 pesos, including shipping. You can buy it from AliExpress or eBay or your local online stores. It has 3 pins, the VCC for power, and it works from 5 volts to about 20 volts. The middle pin is the 3.3 volt output signal when it detects something. And the third one is the ground. This is the onboard 3.3 volts regulator and the onboard BISS 0001 PIR controller chip. Probably, these electrolytic capacitors are for filtering and for the timing circuitry. The purpose of this potentiometer is for sensitivity. The maximum range is 7 meters, and the other one is for the timer, and the max time is about 5 minutes. Turning clockwise will increase the values. In the backside, we can see the so-called Fresnel lens that enables sensing infrared motion in a wider angle. Inside, this is the actual sensor. Transferring this jumper wire will act as a selector switch for the repeatable trigger mode and non-repeatable trigger mode. If you want more about this device, datasheet is in the description. Now, let's put it in the breadboard and directly plug an LED to the output and the ground. I will power it with my 5 volts power supply. The first thing we can observe is powering on the LED turns on according to the setting of the timer. In this case, I set it to the minimum time. It only draws about 88 microamps. So you can see, it does not detect my hand moving. But why? This is because we must first wait about 20 to 40 seconds before it will function correctly. This is the primary disadvantage of this because you have to wait before it will operate. Now, it detects the movement of my hand, but the LED does not always turn on. But why? This is because it is in the non-repeatable trigger mode, meaning to say it does not always trigger. It only triggers when the timer is done timing. So to avoid that, we can transfer it in the repeatable trigger mode, which will always trigger, and resets the time again to 0. Now, if I always move my hand, the LED does not turn off. There's an extra feature in this module. You can actually solder and add a light-dependent resistor in these 2 points here, labeled RL. So it will only trigger at night or when it's dark. Now, I will put a motion sensor in this LED bulb. This is actually a 240 volt LED bulb that I hacked and turned it to a 15 volt. But this will also work if you have a 12 volt bulb. And this is my schematic diagram. I use a MOSFET as a switch and put a gate driver circuit in order to properly turn it on. You can see it works in the every circuit simulation. I started soldering things up according to my schematic. And of course, use components from my junk bin. And most of them are SMD components, so I just made a circuit without a board and just directly solder them near the sensor and insulate it with masking tape. Now, this is almost done. You can see these 3 solid wires. The red is for the source, and black is the ground, and blue is the MOSFET drain. At my first test, luckily it worked. To make it a little bit weatherproof, I applied the module with super glue. I just mount it like this in the side of the LED bulb. And I also forgot to solder my LDR, so it will only trigger at nighttime. The LDR is too sensitive, so I shaded it with a black marker. I keep soldering the appropriate connections, and this is the final product. I plug it to a 15-volt socket and wait for 20 seconds. Now, it does not trigger yet. But if you put it in the dark, it triggers. Alright, it works as expected. You can connect anything you can imagine in the output. This was my example for the application of this PIR sensor without using a microcontroller. Thank you, and I'll see you in my next videos. And remember, be innovative.